Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. It is time for This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 159, recording this live December 7th, 2013, bright and early on a Saturday morning. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untethered.tv, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And with me, again and again and again,
Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association, actually in Toronto this time. And happy to do this every week with you, Rob.
So am I, Asif. And not only this, we're going to try to do a live episode next week when we are both in Washington, D.C. for MoDev on December 12th and 13th. Asif has got a keynote in the morning of the 13th. We're going to be doing a workshop in the afternoon of the 13th. Why the hell are you not going to be there? Two of us in the same room? I don't know. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, if you can get there, you should be there. And in fact, if you still haven't bought your ticket yet, just go to the LBMA website, look for MoDev in the event list, and there's a discount code even. LBMA13 is the discount code. Saves you, $200 or 20% or something like that. But go check it out.
And if you want to take a
come
look,
see Rob and I at MoDev.
come on,
We might even put you on the show live.
We'll just do it. We're going to do it unless you're going to be finding guests, running around the place, finding the guests. We're going to be recording it between keynotes. So why not come out and see this disaster in a making? Not our workshop, but the way that we're going to be doing this podcast.
Yeah.
But December 12th, 13th, gomodev.com. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, I mean, it's our fourth year, Rob. We got to change it up. We got to do things differently, right?
We're going to try new things, and this is one of those
We're
things.
Try new things
in the same room. Yeesh. One camera. I don't know if I like to share my camera with you, though, Steve. That's this is an ego thing, right? All right. Yeah. So we got a huge show, limited amount of time, which usually means that you'll get the best of us in a very short period of time. No rambling. Maybe one rant. One of these. Maybe one or two rants, simply because some of the stories are a little bit insane. But first, we always start this with our Mobile Minute. Chuck Martin recently did a wrap of all of the mobile or the Cyber Monday and Black Friday shopping when it comes to a mobile perspective. So here are some numbers from Chuck Martin on our Mobile Minute. Welcome back to another Mobile Minute. So, how'd mobile do on Black Friday and Cyber Monday?
Well, between those 2 days, based on the research, much holiday shopping is already over. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration. But the number of projections and deals around commerce are nearing fever pitch. If you look at the data that we're seeing, latest projections from ComScore, mega research outfit, shows Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales around $2 billion, with mobile spending for the overall holiday period reaching $7 billion US. So there's some serious money. IBM Digital Analytics Benchmark, which does research every day on shopping behavior and activity, shows overall retail sales recently at 11% higher than the same period a year ago. Mobile accounting for 32% of all online traffic. So mobile traffic is 42% higher than last year. So mobile is really starting to have a big impact this time around.
It seems one of the keys for success for mobile is to simplify a very complicated checkout and buying process. Would you agree with that?
Yes, it's really about looking at mobile throughout the entire process, not just sort of the getting out of the store, but getting in the store as well. So those deals and offers have to be relevant to the consumer based on where they are, what their mindset is, what they're doing, and when they're going to get the deal. And then how do you quickly get them through the entire buying process so that you can they can move on and the retailer can move on or the merchant can move on to their next sale.
Well, if you didn't spend any money over those 2 days, you were like the minority, especially when it comes to the mobile devices. Chuck opens, he said, basically, Christmas shopping is done. If you look at the numbers that have gone through here, I don't believe that because I haven't started. Have you started your Christmas shopping, Steve?
No.
No.
The short answer to that.
Somebody said, no. Hey, Rob, can we meet on December 24th? I'm like, no, that is Christmas shopping day. I don't take holidays except for that. The afternoon, right?
There you go.
I like to save it to the last minute, get some good deals.
I may have a present for you, Rob. But,
what? Oh no!
Yeah.
Now there's pressure. I got one more to get.
Yeah.
Son of a gun.
If you're a good boy this week, Rob, I might even bring it to you in DC. How's that?
Is it Springsteen's signed "Born to Run" lyrics? I know it sold for $180,000. It'd be the greatest thing.
All right. Anyhow.
So that was Chuck Martin. Thank you, Chuck, for doing that with me each and every day. Boy, oh boy, I love getting some insight from Chuck Martin. And that piece is getting a lot of traction. So if you're not subscribed, you should probably do so at untether.tv. On with the rest of the show. Hey, Asif, I got you covered.
Yes. Our app of the week comes from a guy named Mark Dwyer and his team in Florida. And, a very simple app, but, pretty useful. I think it's all about, you're in an emergency situation and you need to, let people know, let somebody know, your emergency contact, your close family member, whatever, that something's going on. And basically with this app, one touch of a button, it knows your location, obviously, from the phone's perspective, but one touch of a button, it automatically starts recording, video and audio from the device, and then sends that out as a stream to your emergency contact. So pretty functional, pretty useful.
These kind of apps I've seen a couple of times. Maybe over the last couple of years, I've interviewed one other company, it's an Ottawa-based company that did this, similar to this. And the only difference was that it also sent out this piercing, loud noise as well if you were being attacked by somebody in a parking lot or something like that. These personal security apps, I think, are so important. And using the cloud and leveraging the video and all of the components of the phone to be able to say, at least if something goes wrong, heaven forbid something goes wrong, and something happens to you, but at least the last thing that happens here is going to be a picture of that person, the assailant or whatever it is, being sent out, up to the cloud. So I think that's amazing. And
it's all about evidence. I mean, I was reading the description around this, and the guy Mark Dwyer, he used to be an attorney before he did this, and he talks. One of the scenarios he talks about here is bullying, and you hear all the time about bullying at schools and kids, and you never have evidence. You just say, oh, so and so was calling me names and bullying me and this that, but just picture these teenagers or these kids with these phones, and they just hit a button and they've got that evidence sent out to wherever they need it to send it to. So
I think it's great. The only thing is no coverage zones, and as these things become more pervasive and the assailants or the bullies are are aware of these things, there's going to be ways around it. And I think, for me, the interesting piece of this is that when they extend something like this into the wearable space, right? So that it's not evident that you're hitting the record button. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's like a Google Glass. When you say, okay, Glass, and it starts, whatever that word or the voice commands that initiate this, I think is going to be killer. And I think this is going to revolutionize this. And you're right. And even with small kids in schools, with a wrist bracelet or something like that, when they're worried about bullying, as a parent, this is a great way to get the evidence, as you said.
Yeah, and while you're on that train of thought, not to dwell on this too much, but on the wearable side, one other thing that wasn't planned to talk about here today, but the NYME guys, NYME, we've talked about them before. Yep. They put out an announcement earlier this week saying that they've got kind of a competition running for proposals on use cases, and if you can come up with a great idea on how to use their band, they'll give you the sort of the development version of the thing for free to play with and work on. So, take Rob's.
That's my idea. Don't take that. I want one.
Apply to the NYME program and get this thing done. So.
I sat with them, and fascinating technology. But you're right. Is that we're going to be fighting for one wrist, or you got two wrists, two ankles in a couple of years. You've got to add some extensibility. I like that they're doing that.
Just think, Rob, while you're in prison, you can have the shackles on.
Yeah, so we're talking about. I'm not going to prison. Well, maybe not yet, but I got a parking ticket in Quebec. A parking ticket, and I failed to pay the parking ticket. So bad on me. But they have said basically that if I don't pay by December 15th. A motion to impose prison term will be pronounced against you. So most people just go through the process of asking you to pay, but Quebec, they lock you up first and then get you to pay. So I love Quebec. I love their punitive laws. It's great. It's Marshall. Yes, I'm going to prison December 15th.
Awesome.
For a parking ticket.
Okay.
All right.
Our next story.
Well, let me just finish that. IGotYou.com. IGotYouCovered.com is where you should go for that application, or it's available on iPhone and Android as well. IGotYouCovered.com. All right, now we can start our first story. Steve, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So our first story of the week comes from Singapore, from Singtel, the big carrier over there that we've talked about a few times on the show, and they've soft launched, I guess, not really a full on assault yet, a new app called Lyke, which is spelled Lyke. And this is, a bit of about social discovery and shopping and finding, items that you want around you. So nothing, crazy new about that, but there is some interesting angles that they're playing here. And this is a white label sort of repurposed version of the US app called Wish. And so, interesting stuff going on here. And in particular, I like the payment piece around this. So it's not just, hey, you found some products near you, and that one's really interesting, and you can say you like it and share it with other people, as the name implies. There is that social magnification piece, but for me, the simplicity of paying via PayPal or credit card. And I assume at some point, bill to your carrier bill, since Singtel's a carrier, all of that sort of ease of integration around this kind of stuff for me is really interesting. Your thoughts?
Well, I think this is a very interesting thing. I like, why reinvent something when, Silicon Valley company called Wish basically has the technology that you want, has the same process that you want. It's a little bit unique. It's about curating great product into an application like this. So it's not just dump all the products in and then have you search. It's curated, which adds a layer of value, and I like that. There's obviously a defensive mechanism of around something, another app that was set to launch called Carousel, which was a partnership with Rakuten, right? Out of where there's the Japanese company Rakuten. So they're all coming in to Singapore as well. So they were set to announce that a week from now, and so Singtel launched this a week before. And this is really interesting because Ottawa-based company Shopify just signed a long-term contract, a distribution contract with Singtel to help get their stores out, the Shopify stores out. And you know about Shopify, it's a mix, right? It's but mostly artisan type, unique products that go through Shopify stores. I mean, it's a hipster brand. I hate using that term, but so you start to think about the, there's another Ottawa company here called End Product who I've interviewed, where they have created really great handmade, locally sourced goods, high quality woods and everything that they use, or leathers, or and so that's the type of product that you see in a Shopify store. So it's n-product.com. So I think that's a great source for Singtel to be able to get some unique products in and curate those unique products. But this is, I don't know that Singtel is the right company to be able to curate great product. Can they do this properly?
Well, so one of the pieces of this announcement is that they're tying the Lyke app into the what they call insing.com, which is their lifestyle portal.
Right.
So, I think from the perspective of, like a lot of big media companies, right? Here in Canada we have Rogers, for example, that, has a fairly robust publishing media magazine arm. They get a lot of data from that side in terms of understanding, user preferences and desires. And I think the same goes here in the case of Singtel and this particular this lifestyle portal. So they understand from the portal side, and all the advertising that runs on there, what people are thinking about, what's trending, what's fashionable, all that kind of stuff in a sort of big demographic swath, kind of look at things. And then they're taking that data, to kind of help the curation exercise on the Lyke app, combining that with the personalized stuff. So part of this is you connect to Lyke with Facebook, and then it looks at that, the Facebook graph data as well on you as an individual, gender, age, interest, all that kind of stuff. And so they've got that from the personalized piece in terms of what they're recommending to you, combined with sort of the overall, sort of country, region, demographic stuff coming from the InSync piece. And I think together, I think it gives them, a significant advantage in terms of being able to, curate in a nice way. And then, as you said, the Shopify piece is cool because, it's the mashup of the two things. On the one side, Shopify is bringing the merchants, onto the system. And on the other side, the Lyke app is bringing the consumer onto the system, and then you're trying to find the match in the middle, right?
Yes.
In terms of what's going to drive. So I really like this. I think this is really, really smart.
You know, this is an interesting play for Shopify because, you know, one of the biggest criticisms that I have of this company, there aren't very many, is that, you know, there's no real marketplace. They tried to do an iPad app of a marketplace, and they realized that building their own application and then trying to market that application is a very difficult thing to do while they're also trying to build their web-based technology, their commerce store platform. So this ultimately, if this works, this is a very unique thing where Singtel becomes, where Shopify becomes the back-end product provider for Singtel's app, right? So it's basically syndicating the product that's coming through Singtel or through Shopify, the unique products, into Singtel, and it then for anybody who's a unique product inside of Shopify. Now you have a distribution mechanism, a global distribution mechanism through Shopify's partners like Singtel. And I think that's the bigger deal here than actually Singtel partnering to actually get other merchants in the stores. I think this is a very unique opportunity. And if that was their plan, Toby, Harley, man, I tip my hat to you guys.
There you go.
Just not as smart as you guys. So this is a very cool app. The app is Lyke, Lyke. And what I love the fact that they position it as a soft launch, but it's very much a defensive launch against Carousel and Rakuten. So this was what a great story. So our second story, Asif, your favorite company on the planet, I think, or at least the one that you think is going to dominate, just the way that I think Amazon is going to dominate. We get to speak about Amazon next. But so PayPal partners with this company called OrderBird in Germany. I think this is huge, significant. If I'm Square, I'm shaking in my boots.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So this is all about them, making the payment process easier for merchants, streamlining this, and the OrderBird's is a Berlin, Germany based company, and it's kind of neat because what they're doing is they're combining check-ins with payments, and so basically, you go into a store. And you check into that store basically, and then that profile data that's coming from the check-in side is used to sort of act as the authentication for a payment, a PayPal transaction. So you check in the location, you enter kind of the product stuff that you want. It could be barcode scanning of the product. It could be other ways to do that. PayPal has numerous ways to do that, and then basically you facilitate the payment through the PayPal app. And then remember, PayPal also has their own beacon technology now and other things going on around this. So the potential for this is huge, right? And I like one of the things I like about this is having spent some time in Germany in the last little while, and when we did our launch in Berlin, PayPal was front and center on the panel, very active in that market. And I like that as an organization they go and they say, they pioneer some of these things in other markets other than the U.S., right? And kind of get them going and kind of, get some serious traction and then come back and say, like, look how successful this has been. Let's roll this out into, a market 100 times the size of, in the U.S. and others. So I love it. I think it's good.
Yes. OrderBird is in 1,700 stores in Germany. And this is one of those things that I completely 100% agree with you. Now, I said at the beginning that this is something that if I was Square, I'd be quaking. I'd be shaking in my boots. Because one of the things there's two sides to that. One is that it works, right? And that PayPal gains momentum with this. They acquire OrderBird. They start to roll this out because PayPal, as you know, is very aggressive. You can pay with PayPal and Home Depot, and you can do all. So they're starting to get into this space. And so one of the situations is that it works exceptionally well. They acquire OrderBird. They then roll out OrderBird across the planet, and they dominate. The second thing is that it doesn't work, and that people walk away from it, or PayPal walks away from it. That's a big indictment against the Square technology as well. But the thing that I love about this is that they're doing this. They're using a country as a beta test, and they're not doing it in the middle of the fray, which is the crap that's going on in North America, which is everybody's fighting for the space. They found one market where Square isn't in. And they found a market where there's already established user base, which is very good strategy. And they're not being the dominant player in this relationship. They're leveraging a partner in OrderBird to bring PayPal into them. They're not PayPal first, OrderBird second. It's OrderBird first, PayPal second.
Right.
And that is a company, to me, that understands how to grow, that they cannot be alpha dog the entire time. I like that a lot.
And I think the key to this too is the 1,700 merchants that are on this system, on the OrderBird system, these are small, medium businesses. These aren't big, corporations, multinationals. These are the local, coffee shops and the kinds of businesses that are also, I would think targets for Lyke in Singapore.
Yeah.
And and so the nice thing about that is this idea of facilitating this payment. You see your product, you scan it, you pay for it, through the PayPal app. Is also about experience. It's about not having to have people line up and do all of that. You can exit the store without ever going to the cash. To do that. So I think that's, a nice element to it. It's an experience thing, but it could be good or bad, right? In small, medium business, sometimes, high touch, human touch is paramount. But, in other scenarios, like in a coffee shop, lots of people, where, there might be, very, very busy in the morning and lined up. You may not want to hang around forever. You'd be happy to, scan and pay and walk out. So
we're going to talk about this in our sixth story, but the transaction is the last piece of this. It's the least important piece of everything that goes on in the whole buying process. So, if you can just obfuscate that by what PayPal and OrderBird are doing, I think it's great. The last point on this that I'll make is that Square came into this world like a shot out of hell, focusing on the small and medium-sized enterprises. They signed a deal with Starbucks and moved upstream. And we talked about this on a couple of episodes, which was, have they abandoned the SMEs again? And maybe PayPal comes in there because that's where they're dominant. And they're moving into this space, and that's why I like this whole thing. Go PayPal.
There you go.
PayPal. God, I love them. I don't know why, man.
All right. Now, your favorite company.
My favorite company, yeah. So I don't know if you heard this, if you're listening to this or watching this, or you've been in a cave, or you've been head down inside of your store because it's been so crazy because of the shopping season. But Amazon announced this thing. Bezos on 60 Minutes, of all places, announced this thing called the Amazon Air Drone Service. And I thought, initially when you sent me the video and then we saw it everywhere, I thought it was a joke. And I actually put out this tweet. I did a tweet twice, right? So I put it out and I said, I wrote it and I'm like, Bezos is the greatest ever. And then I kind of held back until somebody else confirmed that this was actually going to happen, or this was an actual announcement. It wasn't a joke. I have a man crush on Bezos. I tell everybody that. But the whole idea here is that you who order a product now can get it delivered by a drone if you're within a certain radius. So it's literally Amazon to door drone service. And this is, on one hand, totally geeky, awesome, wicked, cool, amazing, that I want to believe that can happen, like space travel in Elon Musk. But on the other side of it is this just, we're not ready for this. There's nothing that is ready for this, not even in the next 5 years.
I mean, the concept is, I agree. I mean, it's wonderful. It's
captures the imagination.
It's amazing to think about, right? 30-minute delivery, via a drone, showing up at your house. I mean, what kid is not going to want to sit there waiting for this package to arrive, right?
Yeah.
And see this thing fly up to his door
and then shoot it down,
right? But yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, the reality is that this isn't going to happen, at least in our lifetime.
Don't burst my bubble, Asif. Why?
Maybe our children's lifetime, this kind of thing might happen. But, the reality is the FAA is never going to approve this kind of stuff. The safety issues are way too high around it. Yes, you and I can go out and buy a remote control helicopter or there is that drone thing, and you can control with your iPhone, all that kind of stuff. But that's just us playing around. That's not a commercial service. That's trying to fight UPS and FedEx. So there's a lot of issues with this. I mean, safety issues for one. People hijacking these things for another. Kids sitting there with their BB guns shooting them down. I mean, too many issues around this. But what I love about this, and this is for me, the brilliance of Bezos and Amazon, and this is, look, it's we just finished U.S. Thanksgiving. It's the Christmas season. Shopping is front and center of everybody's mind, except for you and I, apparently, because we wait till the last minute.
Yes.
But for everybody else on the planet, Christmas shopping is the thing right now. And so, Amazon is obviously a major retailer in that space, and people are going to be buying from Amazon. So why not, own the media cycle for a few hours in this case, and come up with some kind of crazy announcement like this. Because whether it's possible or not is not the point in my view. This is about everybody in the world right now is talking about Amazon. I mean, I was this week at doing some stuff for Office Max in Chicago, and I asked them about this, and obviously, I mean, they said, yeah, we've had discussions about this internally this week. Everybody is talking about this, right? Everybody's talking about this. It's never going to happen, but you want to be part of the hype cycle around Christmas and everybody talking about Amazon? What better way to do it than this?
He's a genius, man. He is a genius. Jeff Bezos, and even on the front page of CNN's website, which is, lately been reserved for celebrity deaths and so on and so forth, and obviously Nelson Mandela. But right there on the front page is Bezos the next Steve Jobs, right? And I think what he's doing is he's eliciting this thing called imagination. And the same thing with Elon Musk and space travel and what he's doing out in the Mojave Desert. And this is amazing. And I don't see that there's anything wrong with this kind of imagination. I believe wholeheartedly that what he really wanted to announce, what he really wanted to talk about on 60 Minutes, wasn't so much a drone package. It was teleportation. I think that he was talked down and said, listen, let's at least make it a little bit realistic where there's a chance that this can happen. So, Bezos, they understand how to market. They understand the power that this position of Amazon has in the marketplace and how everybody's looking at them. And you're right. By doing this, it was the greatest Christmas marketing piece on the planet. And they gave him a mic on 60 Minutes to do it.
It's amazing. It really is.
Think about that. Just for 2 seconds here. You who are listening to this or watching this, like me and like Asif, we have to market our products. We have to market, and you're always hustling. Say you run a Shopify store. I don't care what you do. You have to market your products. And you've heard this many times before. When you get in the media, make sure you have a point. Make sure you have something that you want to say. Don't be directed by the person asking the questions. You direct that conversation. And here's a guy like Bezos, media savvy. His team must have come up, sit down. Okay, at this moment, drop this. And it changed that conversation. And for a week now, we've been talking about Amazon and nothing else. So get on point. Make sure you're going to do something like this. If you're going to be in the media, lead the media. Don't let them lead you. That goes for me. It goes for Steve. But boy, oh boy, that is like classic. Bezos is the god.
Alrighty.
All right, so that's it. The first three stories, we've had eBay, or PayPal, we've had Amazon, and we've had a great story from Singtel with their Lyke App and the way that they're doing it in Shopify from Ottawa. We're going to come back with even better stories, including Texas Instruments, Apple, and of course, something I'm just going to rip a shred into, which is going to be fun if we have enough time. But before we get there, I sat down with Mark Castrocini, who is the VP Software Development of Merchant Warehouse. We're talking about the influence that mobile and location is having on people waiting in line inside of the Best Buy or the big stores. And you talk about Amazon's influence, this thing called showrooming. Boy, you don't want people to wait in line because their minds are made and they could be out that door in a second. Give them a little bit of time to do research and you are done. So here, Mark Castrocini, VP Software Development at Merchant Warehouse, talking about that exact problem. We'll be back on the flip. Shopping experience starts with a browse on the desktop, and then it'll end up with price comparison on the rack in a store, and then the whole idea is that at some point maybe all I want to do is pick up the product, buy it from my device, and walk out the door without a line. Is that how you would describe this multi-channel thing?
Yeah, it's really kind of combining all these methods to buy something, right? And it's been around for a while, although it's getting a little more press recently. Mm-hmm. Because you've always had that retail experience, then you've had that online e-commerce experience. And certainly in some cases they've blended, but at the end of the day it was two numbers. What's interesting is you start to bring mobile commerce in, and we'll define mobile commerce as you buying something on your phone. It's basically the e-commerce experience on a small device. But what's happening is it's happening in the store. So why wouldn't I walk out with the product, right? So we haven't seen a lot of consumer self-service mobile commerce yet, but we are seeing sort of merchant staff in-aisle checkout buying, people experimenting with those things. And basically, as you know, they'll talk about the disconnected countertop. You look at the Apple Store model, which is a little bit niche, right? That's a specialty product, high value. It's going to be harder for me to walk into a Walmart with a carriage full of stuff and basically walk out with the carriage as someone has checked me out at the door. But it's certainly feasible. And you know, look at if I go in and get the TV at Walmart, why do I need to do anything but just pass one person and pay?
Right. You know, it's funny because you know, based on the way that you pay at an Apple store, is that it goes against all of the science and the psychology of shopping in a store, right? Which is you know, there's a reason why a grocery store is laid out the way a grocery store is laid out, right? And most people turn right, and it's and then you go around a loop, and then there's impulse buys at the cash register, right? There's the pop and chocolate bars and gums and all those kind of things, and now they've gone upmarket a little bit with you know, Mach 3 razors for $25 right at the cash. So you know, I think that, you know, by enabling payments anywhere, you know, I think that there's a lot of fear as a result of that, simply because these industries have grown on science based on getting somebody to the cash register, right? Now you're talking about taking the cash registers out, and what happens to the retail industry as a result of mobile payment technologies.
Yeah, and that's one of the really interesting balances that we're seeing happen, right? So literally 3 years ago, you looked at Black Friday. It started becoming a hotbed 4 or 5 years ago, if you will. And they built all this stanchioning, just ropes for the counters and the lines and all of that, because they had to manage the lines. And now you walk into a Best Buy, and what do you see? You see 3 new aisles of basically things to go through as you go to the checkout counter. And it's all temporary because they're going to move it all back into the store later. So merchants can certainly see an aspect where they might lose that opportunity in revenue. But what's interesting is now that they're considering is when people are waiting in line, which we're losing an appetite for. I might just stay home and buy it online, which is concerning because I'm probably going to price shop from the comfort of my home. And certainly people walk into the store today and price shop on their phone. So that's a consideration. But now that people are sitting in a long line at the store, even though all these small elements are up on the counters and, you know, it's candy bars and, yeah, in some cases it's video games and DVDs, but that's giving me an opportunity to now do something else on my phone, because you can be sure I'm going to look straight down, and then maybe I'm going to take a second look at that product in my hand and use one of those great applications that's going to shop locally in the area. So, you know, I think it's up to the merchants to really think hard about improving the experience, and that includes not just the line, but also that in-aisle experience, right? If you can't provide me as a merchant an opportunity to get better shopping experience, even while I'm looking at a product, I might be using one of those third-party apps to do it. And now you can be sure that if a third-party app is helping me shop, there's going to be some incentives from other retailers to try to pull me out of the store. And that might come in the form of a discount or things like that. So a lot of interesting challenges they have as much as the opportunities around.
Yeah, and maybe the catalyst is that first purchase, like location-based marketing. When you're in the store, I think that there's a huge opportunity that if you and I have a relationship already, and I'm having those second thoughts, is that you should be very proactive with me while I'm standing in line, or give me some incentive so I don't stand in line. Because you're right, the impact is detrimental to those organizations. But while you're in the store, how about you know, fighting for my business? Well, just because I'm in there doesn't mean you've won, right? And I think that's the big lesson that a lot are learning.
Absolutely.
Oh, I want to thank Mark for allowing us to use this clip on This Week in Location-Based Marketing. Now, this episode will be probably up in the new year, a little bit backed up with all the great interviews that are coming out here, and I'm trying to get them out as quickly as I can. So look for that. But you can find them at merchantwarehouse.com if you're interested in what they are doing. Thanks, Mark, for doing that. Really appreciate you allowing us to use that and your time. All right, back into the stories. Asif, are we in patent violation with Texas Instruments when it comes to indoor location now? Do we think so?
I think many companies may be. And this is, you know, I pulled this story out this week for a couple of reasons. You know, one, because it's about indoor location and it's a hot topic, and you know, we tend to cover it a lot on this show. But, you know, I pulled this out because this is, you know, Texas Instruments, a company we do not hear about. We haven't, I mean, this is like one of the oldest tech companies on the planet or something like that, right? I mean,
I'm looking for a calculator. I know I have one around here. It's like
my first calculator was a Texas Instruments calculator. Yeah. I mean, I think you and I are of that vintage where, you know, that it's a name we knew growing up, right?
Do you remember when
kids,
you weren't allowed to take calculators into exams?
You are today, but back then you weren't.
You
right?
couldn't. Yes.
But between them and Casio at the time, I mean, that was the calculator market, right?
Yep. Casio. Yes, I had a matching Casio calculator and watch. Not together.
Yeah.
Separate.
So, I mean, anyways, it's a company we don't hear much from,
No.
but here they are, having filed a patent not too long ago. In 2012, they filed this patent, and it's all about a method for indoor positioning using Wi-Fi, WLAN, space that we talk about a lot. And I think, I read this patent in detail, and it's interesting because, so many of the services, over the last few years that we've talked about on the show, a lot of these indoor location services have been Wi-Fi based. Now the market is shifting to, because of Apple and the iBeacons to BLE. But if you're still out there and you're running stuff on Wi-Fi, I think you have something to be concerned about here. I mean, based on what is it a patent troll situation? Maybe, maybe not. But the reality is this is a big company. I mean, Texas Instruments is still the third biggest chip manufacturer on the planet. And so, they've certainly got lots of lawyers and lots of people to go after you if they so choose to do so. So I think it's something to be worried about, especially if you are Wi-Fi, WLAN based in your algorithms for determining indoor location and position.
Yeah, I mean, they are a huge company, and I don't want to take anything against Texas Instruments. Should this be awarded, it's their next move that will dictate whether we feel good about them or feel bad about them. Are they protecting the idea, and then they're going to let it go, or are they protecting the idea in order to be able to go and be punitive and go out and sue people? So, I think the jury's still out. Are they turning into patent trolls? Is this a last-ditch effort for them to be in this space or to migrate into the space? Or are they doing this? Google does this. Google patents a bunch of stuff and then lets people use it, fair use, and they don't go after them. But then on the flip side, Apple patents stuff and then hammers you, right? It's very punitive. So if Texas Instruments is going to do this, then I wonder they're probably just a little bit too late with, as you said, with low energy Bluetooth and other solutions that are much more amenable to indoor location that don't rely on any kind of signals other than proximity. So I think the jury's still out on this. It's late to be patenting this, like 2012.
I think so. And you have to think that the angle, if there is one for them, is, being a major chip manufacturer is what devices,
right,
hold these TI chips in them, in terms of determining location. And is that the limiting factor here? At the end of the day, it might not be, the iPhone or something else. It might be any device that happens to have a TI chip and somebody's trying to determine location from that. That is, the challenge here. But it's hard to tell. And it's certainly, I think really late to be trying to make a play in this space. But hey, you're TI.
Yeah,
give it a shot.
Big, slow company, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how this looks. And my hope is that they don't get all litigious.
Yeah.
Right, so TI.
All right. Our
fifth
next story.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Is Apple buying a company called Topsy. And this is kind of this. I have to say, this was not something I was expecting at all. They paid $200 million apparently,
which is a lot for Apple.
Yeah, it is a lot. And this is a company that is about analyzing all the data running through Twitter, in particular, and kind of looking at that social networks, including they also do Facebook and Google Plus. But mainly, it's basically a Twitter query facility, and it's interesting because obviously there's a lot of data going through Twitter. I don't even know what the volume is, but it's hard to understand a little bit about what Apple sees in this or what they intend to do with this. There was no discussion. It was a typical Apple acquisition. The standard line. We buy small companies from time to time. And that's basically all they said. There's some speculation that this, all that data and what they can do with it can help them, on the curation and recommendation piece around, what they're doing with iTunes and iTunes Radio.
And apps as well. You're right.
And apps.
Yeah, the App Store.
But, it's interesting. I
don't
know.
You know what, Steve, there's two properties that we talk. One we talk about quite a bit in Siri. The other one is in iAds. And I think that, one of the things that Topsy does exceptionally well, I think, is sentiment analysis, right? So
Yes.
And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of omit, is that you can be talking about a brand and it's a negative way. Like I talk about the Gap all the time through Twitter, and it's never positive, right? I'm tired of getting their email campaigns for dresses. Do not wear dresses. I did when I was younger, but now so they do not understand that. So sentiment. So I'm angry with Gap, and I keep getting responses from Gap saying, "Hey, thanks for tweeting about us." I'm like, no, and it gets me. Anyways.
Did you read the tweet I sent?
Yeah, exactly. No, you didn't. You just responded.
Right.
So sentiment is one of the things. But when it comes to their aggregation of data, like Siri is going, like more and more we're starting to look at this, that Siri is going to be their interface through the car. We've seen that integration directly in the cars, in the Ford Syncs, I think. And obviously, while you're walking around in any kind of external device that they might be coming out in the new year, Siri is going to be the glue that brings all that together. This kind of data fed into Siri, this kind of data fed into iAds. Boy, oh boy, does that ever make a huge difference for the intelligence of those applications. Mm-hmm. And then I think as a secondary piece, it is about discovery around applications through iTunes, music recommendations, and also bringing up trends. Now they use Twitter as their base. We're talking about Topsy here. They're searching Twitter because of the flood, and there's a void there for any kind of analysis of what's going through Twitter. But it doesn't mean that they can't move it over to a bunch of different things, a bunch of different parameters. And I think that music recommendation, trending recommendations, understanding what's hot right now, and certainly about location and even apps, I think is very powerful.
So let me ask you a question then, Rob.
Yeah.
Do you think an acquisition like this means that an Apple acquisition of somebody like Foursquare doesn't make sense anymore?
You know what? I think that they're trying to build this around Foursquare. My guess is that they've had the conversation with Foursquare, and Foursquare wants an insane, billions of dollars for that. And Apple's just looking and saying,
because effectively this gives them a lot of that stuff in a different way.
Well, provided that Twitter doesn't turn off their access to the Twitter feed, right? Because I think that this is now. I mean, we are. This is like Risk, right? We are now building borders around the things that we want to protect. And Twitter, we know, takes their ball often and goes and plays by themselves, right? They've done this many times with their developer community, and it was the right decision. And if I was Twitter looking at this, I'm thinking, on the board, the day after this acquisition, the moment it happens, is that there's a big Apple sign on a whiteboard saying, "Do we disconnect Topsy?" Right? And they have to be thinking about that. But yes, I think that this circumvents that. I think Siri is trying to circumvent a $1 billion acquisition of Foursquare, and right for them. The thing that I find really interesting is that Siri, I think the rumors were that was a $20 million acquisition in its infancy, and all the tools around making Siri better are basically $1 billion that they've spent.
Yeah, I mean, Apple is just on fire right now, and I mean, they this week they rolled out iBeacon into their own stores. Their 250 plus stores, and they're, as Apple tends to do, it's let's show the world, how this stuff works, with our own retail environment, so that every other retailer sits there and goes, we need to be doing this. Yeah. Because I mean, retailers sit there and they go, the model is Starbucks or the Apple Store, right? Yep. And so they see this stuff and they prove it themselves and show it with their own stuff, and then everybody else just goes, yeah, we need to do that. So I think that's cool. And then just back to the patent discussion for a minute, Apple was also granted a patent this week. Just a quick sidebar on facial recognition technology. So another authentication method. I mean, they have fingerprint already. Now they have facial recognition as well. I mean, these guys are they're rolling. So
it's so true. And
Steve Jobs, who?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think this is still his legacy, right? I think that we're seeing his legacy.
I was,
Yeah, I know.
in awe of that man.
But what you start to think about this is that I've recently made the switch back from Chrome. Like, I've given up on Chrome, simply because, every once in a while I think, like, what, it knows too much. Google knows too much about me for free. So I've moved back to Safari. I've also moved away from Google Maps and onto the Apple Maps because their platform is great. Sure, sometimes it doesn't find the location. I end up in a place I don't end up in a place that's different. It doesn't find it on the map, and I have to go and find the address. But the experience is way better than Google Maps now, I find. Yeah. So,
and the data's getting better. It's getting more accurate, too.
It is, and it's gradual, and we knew that was going to happen. So you're right. This momentum and the things that they do in store, to me, are amazing, right? The challenge that I have is that you can't use somebody like Starbucks or somebody like the Apple Store as your basis if you're a small and medium-sized enterprise, simply because your demographic that goes into the store is not expecting to go in there and find a guy in a shirt and use the device in their hand to pay, and then have their receipt emailed
and walk out $600 later in the pocket.
Yeah, that.
Like that.
but this is all part of that play, right? And so when you integrate something like Topsy into that layer, the deep analytical dive, big data, and then making sure that information lands on the screen that is appropriate for it at the moment that it's appropriate for it, that is what I think Topsy is. That's why they spent $200 million on this. It's to augment Siri. It's to augment their iAds platform. It's to increase the sales inside their store. It's an amazing thing what they're doing with the retail space. So you can look at it and marvel, but you can't base your business on it because you don't have $180 billion sitting in the bank. So you can be envious, but and then just go and buy their product because they're building the future of retail with this. So Apple buys Topsy, and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So we talked, So PayPal, eBay. We talked about Amazon, Apple. And we're going to finish with a flurry here. What do you think? We're going to talk about this
favorite story of the week here. Here we go.
I don't think it's a bad story. So there was a story that came out that a bunch of Dallas merchants are using this thing called Cartwheel Register. And the Cartwheel Register was being built by a company called Tantrum Street, which is an interesting name, Tantrum Street. Tantrum, I see that all the time with my 7-year-olds, Tantrum Street. So, this is an interesting thing where basically it's, you walk into a store and you don't have to swipe your credit card. It's a recognition software for your credit card. Now, I thought this was facial recognition. I thought this is interesting because we talked about, Square. We talked about PayPal and OrderBird getting into this space. And so I thought, well, maybe one more entrant isn't bad. You walk in, it's a loyalty play. But no, Asif, this is about holding your credit card up in the air, and they take a scan of your credit card, a picture of your credit card, so you don't have to scan your credit card.
Yeah, and they store the numbers somewhere. Yeah.
So here's go ahead. No. Go ahead, Rob. Rand. Come on. So
I don't want to hold you back.
No, I mean, we talk about this all the time, is that, and we do on this show, and I do with Chuck all the time, and it's so frustrating that we see these things coming out like this, is that the transaction is not the goal, right? The transaction is the outcome of the experience that you have with a retailer. So the fact that everybody's focused on the fact that, look, we're making payments easier. You don't. Payments are freaking easy when you want the product and you've had a good experience, right? Payments are a pain when you stand in line and you hate the store and you hate the fact it's like Christmas shopping, right? Payments are not the end game. You don't get the payment unless you do the 37,000 things before that to satisfy the customer. So the fact that this company is out there touting the fact that this is a payment process, it's like, hey, don't worry. All you have to do is flash your credit card up there. Not to mention security challenges. I'm holding a credit card up there. I can take the picture of the front. I get the little number on the back that everybody can see. It is a security risk. It is all those kind of things. It is dumb. But I could actually accept it if that was an outcome because they've done some innovation in the service layer, but they haven't done it. They're focusing on the transactions. It's a technology play. This is a dead technology before it even begins.
Yeah, I mean, you read this thing and they talk about comparing it to, tabbed out and ISIS and all, I mean, and it's the failure. I completely agree with you. It's the failure of all of these guys, MCX, ISIS, tabbed out, whoever.
Who cares about the transaction?
And now, Cartwheel Register.
Yes.
I mean, what are you doing? I mean, this is not about, let's change the merchant transaction fee and lower it by, 0.12387, percent. Because we're going to save you 3 cents on the transaction, over the other, transaction platform.
We're past that.
Who cares?
We're past that.
Right? Who cares? Are you actually driving more transactions because you're doing something different in the store and you're creating an experience for people? You remember we talked about, we had that example from McDonald's in Singapore with the NFC Happy Table and all that kind of stuff. As much as you never go to McDonald's, Rob, right? the reality is, for people who do go to McDonald's, that kind of thing is about creating an experience in the store where the kids are there, they want to be there, they want to play with this thing, the parents are going to buy them more stuff, they're going to go there more often, and they're going to do what? More transactions.
100%.
Because there's an experience that's worthwhile being there in the store.
Yep.
Right? And that's what I don't like about any of these things, any of these platforms, is because they're so just focused on the transaction. Why is NFC going nowhere in the US in particular right now? Not just because, the iOS 7 and the iBeacon and all of that is just, killing it right now. It's because it's only been positioned by all these players as a transaction platform and not as, here's what we can do with NFC to make that experience better.
Yep. Well, and
right?
You were so right. And McDonald's gets it, right? So my kids have been there once. Their grandparents took them to McDonald's.
Yep.
They didn't tell us. They didn't eat the food, but what they did do was play on those jungle gyms. They understand the experience, right? Now we drive past that McDonald's all the time, and they're like, "Dad, I just want to go play in the jungle gyms." Right? So they get that. These guys don't, and that's why the conversation that I had with Mark Castrocini from Merchant Warehouse is exactly what we should be thinking about. Is that they've basically said, listen, transactions are a commodity, right? You don't have to worry about Square or this or ISIS or anything. All you want to know is that you want to do mobile transactions. So we'll take care of that. Don't worry about it, right? That's done. Now work on the other things that make your business the important piece that in somebody else's lives, the loyalty, the customer engagement, the experience in store.
Right.
If somebody's in your goddamn store, they have committed to you, not 100%, right? And as you saw from that little clip from Mark, is that even if they're in line, product in hand, they've made the decision, the emotional attachment to the product, they're about to buy it, they're pulling out their phone, and they're about to check the price or review somewhere else, and there's a good chance that if you make them wait for 6 minutes in that line, they're going to put the product down and go next door to buy it because they found a better deal. That means, man, payments don't matter because they're not getting to the cash register.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm not even... So that's the frustration when we see this technology first thing. Innovate in the customer service layer. Don't innovate in the payment stuff. Payments are a commodity. And you know what? The easiest thing to do, the most fluent currency on the planet is the US dollar right now. And you have to compete with the US dollar. You're not going to. So that's why I look at this and think it might be localized. It might just be in Dallas. It's going to stay in Dallas. That's it. So
there you go.
Cartwheel Register.
Cartwheel Register.
TantrumStreet.com. Give us a call.
We just had a tantrum on it, didn't we?
We did. Exactly. I feel like my kids. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Our last piece here is our resource, which I find amazing. I drive a Mazda, a CX-9, because I have twins and lots of stuff. I love this brand. I love this product. I love everything about Mazda. My whole family has driven Mazdas. I was the black sheep when I drove a Jeep for a little while, but then I saw the ways. I'd still like to go out and get a Jeep Cherokee, really, quite frankly. But Mazda, I have a CX-9. So they've partnered with PlaceIQ, your favorite company on the planet.
It's definitely one of my favorite companies. I mean, these guys, I think we're both big fans of analytics and the value of all these kind of new metrics and around location, which is where PlaceIQ specializes. And so, really, this is they're working with Mazda and they're just helping them understand the demographic of where to target their ads, who's coming into dealerships. Who are these people? Where are they coming from? What did they do before? How do we get just a better understanding of who the Mazda customer is or the potential Mazda customer is? And they talk about in here 400,000 people who visited a Mazda dealership, and that they were able to determine that 250,000 or so of them were high-income SUV owners. And how far they traveled to get to the Mazda dealership, and all this kind of stuff, which is just crazy valuable information if you're trying to figure out how to optimize your marketing spend, whether you're in the car business or not, in any business. I mean, this is just a great use case example of what's going on here. And then think about this, I mean, in terms of ad optimization and what you can do with this. But think about then, how you take that data and then translate it to, what you could do in the dealership or in the store, right? Back to experience. How do you then take all of that, as we just described in terms of these metrics, and then move that to change and better the experience in the dealership to make it more personalized to those people as they come in, right? They've already gone to 6 other car dealerships, and what they looked at, and then you can pass that information over to the sales guy on his mobile device, so that he's coming to talk to you in a manner where he's already equipped with this information, and he knows your hot button issues, he knows all these kinds of things, right? I mean, this is what this is what it should be, right? And this is what we're going to get to. And I think PlaceIQ has done a valuable service here in making these kinds of things available.
I see if I think you have a man crush on Duncan.
I do.
Come on.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I think that this is, but it's so logical. I have a few challenges, right? So one of the statements that they made was the company can detect a device ID that's been hashed or obscured for privacy purposes when it is present at one of the locations. I think that there's a certain, spot where you shouldn't. If you're worried about privacy and protection, that stuff should never be touched. So leave that alone, guys. But what I truly, and the other thing is that I go to the Mazda dealership to get my car serviced, right? So you've got to be able to differentiate between me visiting the service department at a car dealership than me going there as an intent to buy, right? And I think that even though, that's why they have the car service right next to the dealership with a glass door, so you can go in as you're waiting to go and see the latest and greatest, right? It's brand retention, which is brilliant. So I think that there's a distinction there, and there's a play for both, right? If I've agreed to this, which you have to opt into location-based ads, whatever platform it's on, but if I've agreed to both, then it should be able to, instead of put a sticker up on my window about my next service, it should be able to give me deals to entice me to go in and get the service. But then it should also know that when I've been to the service bay 16 times in a year, it might be time to convert me into a buy situation for the car. So brilliant.
Well, yeah, and then you remember we talked about, I think it was Rogers and Sprint have launched a joint service around, real-time location-based tracking of the health of your car. Yep. So it knows, your tires are wearing, and it can send you an alert to say, you should stop in the dealership, it's nearby, and, get new tires. All that kind of stuff. And the same, so you take those sensors and that set of data, you combine it with stuff over here like at PlaceIQ, and then obviously now you're in a situation where you can understand what's happening at the dealership level. So anyhow, great resource, great little case here, and love this kind of stuff.
Let me ask you sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want one question about this. Is that I think that do you base when you take your car in? And maybe this is a question to everybody who's listening or watching, is like when you take your car in, I look up at my sticker and it says, 85,000 kilometers or this date, go, right? And I'm directed by that. I don't pay attention, and maybe this is to my detriment, I don't pay attention to deals or incentives to bring me in earlier. I just say 85,000, 85,000, go. So is that how you operate as well?
Yeah, in fact, my car, it basically just came up actually the other day. So it basically comes up with an electronic message in the dash that says, service. Your car's due for service in 16 days, and it gives you this down. Reminder. Oh, it's a countdown, right? And so I'm not driven by the incentive or deal at all. It's the car's due for service. It's got to go in.
But I wonder if there's a play there, right?
Now, when I get in there, I might be swayed by, there's a special package on that includes a few other things that could be done to the car that, weren't part of what, was planned. So yes, I can be influenced once I'm there. But in terms of getting me there, typically it's just this reminder in the vehicle.
This is a perfect example of maybe there's an opportunity to drive you in there. But once you do, the experience inside the store has to be much, much, much better. I know they put leather couches and they put free coffee and television and newspapers and all that, but that's not a great user experience. Right. So I think that there's huge play here, and Duncan is so smart for getting involved with this, and I they can make a career inside of just Mazda. So kudos to PlaceIQ, kudos to Duncan McCall is who we're talking about. If you're listening to this, Duncan, I tip my virtual hat to you, my friend. Good job. Great resource.
Excellent.
All right, is that it? Are we done?
I think that's it. You know what? I will throw one little quick little story in here. If you're still out shopping, for those of you who haven't finished your Christmas shopping yet, like Rob and I, and you haven't got your tree up yet,
yes,
and you live in the U.S., okay, and you need to get that Christmas tree, and you're the guy who buys the real Christmas tree every year, okay, go take a look at the partnership done this week between Uber and Home Depot.
Really?
Home Depot is the largest seller of Christmas trees in the U.S. in terms of volume. And now you can, if you have an Uber account, you can order your tree and Uber will deliver it to you.
Come on.
Awesome.
Come on. Do they deliver
Yeah.
up to? They don't deliver up to Canada, right? You
No.
obviously have to be in a city that Uber is in.
Yeah. So there you go. Uber Christmas trees, guys.
I see
Check
that.
it out.
That is customer experience. Oh my goodness. See, there's a perfect example. And then you don't even see the payment, do you? It just goes to your Uber account, right?
There
You don't
you
even
go.
care.
Done.
Oh, great way to finish this, Sif. Well, for those of you who are still at this point, you just got a great nugget. But we hope to see you. Come up and say hi to us at Motive on the 12th and 13th. I will be there for both days. I know Asif will be there for both days. We'll be floating around. I'm actually going to go and sit and learn some stuff, which is great. I can't wait. And then we'll be speaking on Friday afternoon. Please come out and find us. If there's a party on the 12th or something, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
We'll be there. I'll be the guy that looks like this, and Asif will be the guy that looks like that. We won't switch roles. But please come up and say hi. We'd love to hear from you and have a good conversation. And for those of you who can't make it out to Washington, D.C., we'll be back next week for episode number 160, 160. Next week. And then we're going to get into our prediction show after that. But please come back. Please come back. But until then,
right.
Asif, we'll see you in a couple of days, man.
Yes.
All right. And for
Looking
those
forward
of
to
you,
it. Thanks.
we'll see you next week. Have a good one.